Can't be the initial unjustified aggressor. This is important. You can't start it with your driveway decision, unjustified, because you didn't see a crime committed that day, and then claim, oh, I acted in self-defense. What's their justification? What are you going to hear? We wanted Ahmaud Arbery to stop and talk to us, and he wouldn't. So we tried to force him to stop, and then we killed him. I mean, that's really what they're going to get up here and tell you. They'll probably make it seem much more palatable and okay, but that's really what they're going to tell you. You can't commit felonies against someone and then claim self-defense. You can't be the armed robber in the convenience store pointing the gun, and when the clerk goes to defend himself by grabbing that gun or hitting the armed robber, you can't shoot him. The law goes not self-defense when you're committing felonies against someone. And you can't provoke someone into defending themselves against you so that you can intentionally harm them and then claim self-defense. Okay, what's that about, ladies and gentlemen? Think of your schoolyard bullies. Think of the three boys walking behind the one who's the target, kid who's getting abused, right? Okay, so you got 3-on-1. They're going down the hallway. They're menacing him, maybe threatening him, and they get him up against a locker, and he has nowhere to go. He's trapped, right? So what does the kid who's being bullied do? He takes it, and he takes it, and takes it until he can't anymore, and he finally shoves the one bully, and what does that bully do? Bam! Punches the target child, right? What's the bully always say? He started it. Isn't that what the bully always says? He pushed me. I was defending myself. Yeah, 3-on-1 with one kid up against a locker. You're bullying him. And he actually pushes you, and you get to then claim you were acting in self-defense when you punch him? Guess what? The law knows people do this. I mean, you get this. This is the law. The law knows people will goad other people into defending themselves so that they can claim, I was acting in self-defense. You can't do that either. 3-on-1, 2 pickup trucks, 2 guns, unarmed. Mr. Arbery was unarmed. So what are you going to hear? I don't know what they're going to say. They're good. They're good defense attorneys. They're going to get up here, and the state is so worried that they're going to make it seem so reasonable that everything that Travis did and Greg did is just so reasonable. I'm just going to ask you, use your common sense and put your thinking caps on. But this is what I anticipate, what we anticipate they're going to say. The victim started it, or you're going to hear that he was the aggressor, okay, because he was running towards Travis McMichael, but he was running away from Mr. Bryan, who'd already tried to hit him with the pickup truck. And Greg McMichael said it. He was trapped like a rat. He knew there was nowhere else to go. Or they're going to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, this is really about the front of the pickup truck. Forget everything else. It was all about the front of the pickup truck. And they're going to try to make it seem like, well, he attacked Travis McMichael. He very well might have. We can't see. What we know is his hand was like this, right? Doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because they weren't committing a citizen's arrest. They weren't in fear, real fear, of imminent danger from Mr. Arbery. They were committing the 4 felonies. That's what they were doing. You're going to hear, we weren't committing felonies, we were doing a citizen's arrest, we weren't trying to provoke him into defending himself. You're probably going to hear this. Yes, we pointed a shotgun at him to get him to comply with our orders. I'm not sure why anyone should comply with their orders, to stop and talk to us, but there was no reason for him to defend himself against us, because this was a citizen's arrest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the bottom line. As I said in opening, I'm going to say it to you again. This was an attack on Ahmaud Arbery. They committed the crimes. They committed the 4 felonies. They attacked him. They shot and killed him. They can't claim self-defense under the law because they were the initial unjustified aggressors and they started this. And they were committing the felonies against Ahmaud Arbery. They have to somehow justify their actions by claiming citizen's arrest. I'm going to remind you once again, evidence from the witness stand, they never, ever said on February 23rd, 2020, that they were doing a citizen's arrest or trying to arrest him. It was all, we wanted to stop, we wanted to question him about what he was doing because he must have committed a crime that day, and we were going to hold him so the police could go back and figure out what crime it was that he must have committed because he was running down the street. Citizen's arrest. If the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping, a private person may arrest him. So what are they going to do? They're going to do this. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you this. A private person may not act on the unsupported statements of others alone for their probable cause. What does that mean? No gossip, no hearsay, nothing along those lines. In other words, my mom told me about this, where she has no personal knowledge of it, doesn't count. That's unsupported, unreliable statements of somebody else. You have to have more than stale information from an unreliable source. A private citizen's warrantless arrest must occur immediately after the offense, or in the case of felonies, during the escape. If the observer fails to make the arrest immediately after the commission of the offense or during escape in the case, his power to do so is extinguished. All right, what does that really mean? A citizen's arrest is for emergency situations when the crime really happens right in front of you and you can take action right then and there to arrest somebody because you know about it. You've seen it. You're taking action right then and there. If it's a felony, you can run after the person and chase him down. That's all this means. This was not a citizen's arrest. They never said it. None of the defendants saw Mr. Arbery commit any crime that day. They were detaining him for the police so that they could investigate and find the crime that he must have committed that day because what is he? He's running down the street. That's not the law, ladies and gentlemen. Not the law at all. Travis McMichael, remember all his assumptions? He got up here and I wrote them all down. He may have run by. Matt Albenzi may have seen him. He may have broken in. Maybe the owner's down there. He may have been caught. He may be trying to avoid the police. That's testimony from the witness stand. He didn't know anything. Absolutely nothing. So, where are we going to end up? This is where we're going to end up. Travis McMichael had probable cause to believe that Ahmaud stole the stuff off the English boat in 2019 because his mother gave him some gossip about stuff being stolen, and he was escaping. Use your common sense. How do you escape from a crime on an unknown date in 2019 on February 23rd, 2020? I'm sure they'll explain it to you. But use your common sense. And remember, what do you think? You think all this was completely made up for trial? Especially given no one ever said it on February 23rd, 2020? Ladies and gentlemen, use your common sense. Put your critical thinking caps on. It's all the state can ask you to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the defense.
All right. What we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is take a short recess. Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute recess, and then we'll come back for the continuation of closing arguments. Again, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves until all of the closing arguments have been made and you have received the final charge of the court. All right? So again, 15 minutes, and we'll see you back. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Heading back to
what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. The neon lights in the fast lane life, riding high, reaching for the sky. I had it all but lost and fell back down again. Spent my time playing the game where every single day was a losing battle and every drink was a dead end. Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I've lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. How did I get caught? The walls are caving in. How come I got lost in this endless spin? Why do I feel so empty deep within? Where did I go wrong? Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day, heading back to what used to be home, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. The neon lights in the fast lane life, riding high, reaching for the sky. I had it all but lost and fell back down again. Spent my time playing the game where every single day was a losing battle and every drink was a dead end. used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Neon lights in the fast lane life, riding high, reaching for the sky. I had it all but lost and fell back down again. Spent my time playing the game where every single day was a losing battle and every drink was a dead end. Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I've lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. How did I get caught? The walls are caving in. How come I got lost in this endless spin? Why do I feel so empty deep within? Where did I go wrong? Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Heading back to what used to be home, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Neon lights in the fast lane life, riding high, reaching for the sky. I had it all but lost and fell back down again. Spent my to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. Neon lights in the fast lane light, riding high, reaching for the sky. I had it all but lost and fell back down again. Spent my time playing the game where every single day was a losing battle and every drink was a dead end. Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I've lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day. How did I get caught? The walls are caving in. How come I got lost in this endless spin? Why do I feel so empty deep within? Where did I go wrong? Eyes on the goal, don't lose control. I'm living fast, I lost my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting
Hello everyone, my name is
another
Rittenhouse.
day.
I am coming
Eyes
to
on
you
the
today
road,
from my
don't lose
home.
control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day, heading back to what used to be home, where every mile is a new beginning and every bend holds a new end. Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again. Driving is like a spiritual cleanse, where every mile is a new
Yes, Your Honor. I have an objection. Right now, I have came into the courtroom and saw Mr. Sheffield flipping through a number of his slides that featured photos I've never seen before. They featured photos that I had not been tendered into evidence, are not part of the evidence, and then I think there was a diagram that no one testified to. So having only seen 4 or 5 of them, and I get somebody writing some stuff down, maybe on use of force continuum, and then here's the different levels, because Travis testified to that. There appears to be some sort of use of force diagram that no one testified to or authenticated. There seems to be a picture of the entrance to Satilla Shores, and then there's a photograph of like the U.S. Marine or the U.S. Coast Guard symbol, which is what I quickly saw. So right now, Your Honor, I don't know what Mr. Sheffield's putting up, but I have grave concerns that he's about to show the jury a whole bunch of stuff that they have never seen and no one's authenticated or testified to in this trial at all.
These are demonstrative things, Judge. This is closing argument. We've had a lot of testimony about the Law Enforcement Training Center. That's all that is. We've had testimony about his training, and we've had testimony about use of force. These are just demonstrative. These are just demonstrative things, not in evidence. I mean, they're in evidence to the extent they've been testified about.
The only thing that caught my eye there is the argument that this is what he received.
That's what he
as part of
testified
it. That's
to.
what he testified to.
Right. Yeah, these are just demonstrative.
And there's
visuals.
nothing on those that show the Coast Guard manual or anything like that that would be, for example, I know that the state presented a few of the pages from the actual manuals
Nothing
themselves.
from the manual. The only thing that I have is what I've created that shows he testified about officer presence, verbal commands, control techniques, aggressive response techniques, intermediate weapons, and weapons retention.
Okay. And this, what is that? Is that something you put together, or is that actually coming
Yeah,
from his
I've
records?
clipped it and cut it from things that I found.
Well, what's behind it is an orange thing that has physical fitness standards and search incident to arrest behind it. So, and it says objectives completed. Travis McMichael never testified to any
Yeah, he
of
could.
those things.
Testified to his training and that he did
And-
these things.
And what's the thing at the top, Your Honor? We have Maritime Law Enforcement Academy Student Profile Report. That wasn't tendered in, and then we've got that next to it.
Well,
For official use only?
I just intend to talk about the course that he took, the courses that he took that he testified to.
No, there's more to that. I mean, that says it's a student profile report. That was not testified to. That was not tendered in. Lost it. Yeah, I don't have any problem with an argument about what he testified to, but once we start getting into what the curriculum was or an individual report,
All right, how's that?
that works a lot
Okay. And I just
better.
have this.
Can you go back to
Oh, sure.
I'm just digesting.
State objects to the heading on that, since it attempts to have a photo of something that was never testified to.
What's the heading?
It has an image of some Coast Guard thing.
It's where he went to school. He testified to it. What is so objectionable about that? Mr. Rubin showed it in his opening statement. Sounds a little silly.
He testified to where he went to school, he testified to what he did in the training, and he testified to his rank, which I think is actually the other thing that's shown on there.
Right.
We can get back to it. Yeah, actually, that removes even that part. Okay, I don't, that, the objection is, I guess, granted in part. As that slide has been amended, I don't have any issue with that.
Okay.
I'm good with that. The use of that,
This
that's
is what
part
he
of the
testified
argument.
to. Yeah, this is just part of the
And
argument.
he's talked about,
And then there's the Satilla Shores neighborhood
Please
sign.
back up one more.
what was the rank?
This is his testimony at trial.
Well, wait a second. Handwritten notes by the attorney as to his testimony at trial. We're going to show those to the jury.
Of course we are. I wrote them right in front of him as he was testifying. This isn't appropriate to get this deep into my presentation. These are the notes that I took at trial. The same way that I can show this one, Judge.
Well, those are your notes.
Yes, based on his testimony. I did it in front of the jury. Just like I did this one.
They're not
I can put
going
my
out.
notes up.
They're just what you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm saying
So-
you saw him testify.
So the unfortunate thing is when everyone's just talking as I'm working through things, I can't think it through. So what you are using the slide to show is what his testimony was at the time.
The state has chosen to type it up. They've decided to type up what was said. You heard Greg McMichael say, you heard Travis McMichael say. This is my notes as I was writing, as he was talking in front of the jury with the state present during trial. I do this because it captures what's said on the stand in a visual way and the jury can understand it. I don't see what the objection is. The state can talk about and type up, but I can't show what I wrote down during the testimony. That doesn't make any sense.
I understand now what that was. I did not, and I agree. Mr. Sheffield did write those things down on the big piece of paper. If he chooses now to show it this way, the state's okay with that.
Okay.
The problem becomes the next photo of Satilla Shores. No one testified to that photo.
really objecting that Satilla Shores is a neighborhood with a neighborhood sign out front? What's so objectionable about that? It's just a chapter heading of what I'm going to be presenting.
Judge, my fear here is just that I'm going to have to object to every single slide when it comes up where no one's testified to it or contains information no one testified to.
Well, and I think we've just seen a number of things. The state has a continuing objection then to the Satilla Shores sign. I understand that's not in evidence, but it's the sign itself. And if it's simply being used as indicated as sort of a chapter marker, then I'll permit the defense to use that. What the changes that have been made now to the slide that showed the training, what I understand now is limited to what was actually testified to. Right. And it will be referred to that way as opposed to here's the manual or here's what the Coast Guard instructed him. I won't limit you on exactly how you can present that, but as long as it's not a presentation as if it was evidence separate from testimony that was provided by Mr. McMichael from the witness stand. And the use of force continuum is just what you're using to demonstrate the argument as opposed to relying on that as a training device or something that was actually presented in training.
Right.
Okay.
So Judge, I'm just asking for a little direction from the court. These are just the first couple, so if there's some photos that no one's ever testified to that are in this, I'm going to object. If there are other things, like for instance, there's a picture of the neighborhood and somehow they've marked every time a 911 call came in. No one testified to all the 911 calls in the neighborhood, but there may be a graphic that shows all of that. If such graphic exists, I'm not saying it does, I don't know what kind of graphic Mr. Sheck is going to be, I'm going to object. And if this happens more than twice within this PowerPoint, I'm going to ask that we stop, unfortunately, and go through every single slide, because at that point I'm going to be up here objecting constantly to his closing because it contains things that were never testified to and no evidence was presented at trial because of it. That is my concern.
I have a slide of the neighborhood that I created, that I put little circles on, and I put things on it that are representative of the testimony of Officer Rash and the GBI and going door to door and neighbors who have been complaining about things. I'm not going to say the neighbor at this address called 911 on this date or that date. It's argument. It's demonstrative of my argument. I don't see any basis for the state to object, and I don't have anything else in here that's a photograph. So.
I understand the issue, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Judge.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Ready to go?
State wants to object and do it. That's fine. We'll just deal with it as it comes, I guess.
All right, well, let's we got one more.
I don't think it's
We have
objectionable.
a flash drive of TikTok videos. Juror 219.
Let's take care of that.
You can do that later. Just once you let it's available.
Okay, let's go get the panel.
It's a little warm in here.
I'm comfortable with it.
Is it on?
That's a powerful little plane.
It's like the courtrooms in Chatham County. We will all be frozen by the time we get to about 3 o'clock this afternoon, but I guess we'll wait and see.
I need meat in here.
Yes.
I'll take that over the sauna.
See if you get what you wish for. All right. just felt a breeze. Yeah, should be. It's coming. I can feel it right here already. Okay. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get the panel.
Judge, I would okay, invite the jury to sit if they want to. Invite the jury to sit here rather than there if they want to. We have 14 seats plus one chair.
I've spoken with the jury a number of times about where they're comfortable seating. They'll. In fact, one of them's moved intentionally, so let's not keep moving everybody around. Now, I will ask them if they can all see the screen, but it looks like it's high enough where it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it's just hard to look across the stage.
All rise for adjourn.
I will ask just to make sure that.
Please be seated.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sheffield brought up something just before you came in. We're going to be using this large screen for the defense's closing arguments. I just want to make sure, because we've had a little bit of movement around in the jury box, that everybody can see and that everybody's comfortable where they are. If you need to move, there's at least one seat in the jury box. We can move folks over if they want. But if you're comfortable where you are, that's fine too. With that, Mr. Sheffield.
Duty and responsibility and following the law will always be intertwined with heartache and tragedy. This case is about three things. It's about watching, it's about waiting, it's about believing. Travis McMichael spent almost a decade of his life learning about duty and responsibility. He received extensive training on how to make decisions that would ultimately impact his beliefs as a petty officer in the Coast Guard, as a boarding officer in the Coast Guard, into some of the most treacherous waters extending some 200 miles off the coast in the United States. He trained relentlessly about his duty and his responsibility. Even after active service and then coming into smaller communities and working in the Coast Guard, he trained weekly, sometimes daily, on what the law provided that he do, what his responsibilities were, how he would make decisions in critical moments of policing and in critical moments of rescue. These teachings were burned within his brain to the point of muscle memory so that he could perform his duty and his responsibility to his country and his community. He talked to you about officer presence and how he trained for officer presence. He talked with you about verbal commands and how he would use verbal commands to try to police or to try to calm or to try to de-escalate situations. He talked with you about control techniques and the things that he would have to use to get control from those persons who he was investigating. aggressive response techniques, something that he never had to use on his job, but something that he trained weekly, every Friday with the red man suit. And he talked with you also about intermediate weapons, weapons retention, and the use of deadly force. Travis spent a long time going through these things in his testimony. If you recall, I was writing feverishly as he was testifying so that I could capture what it was that he had to share with us about these things. And it includes what gave him the right to search, examine, arrest, seize, inspect, inquire. He talked with you about the level of suspicion by a reasonable and prudent person given the overall circumstances to believe that crime has been committed. Probable cause. He spoke with you about the use of force continuum. He talked with you about de-escalation and how de-escalation was always the goal. He talked with you about leaps, listen, empathize, ask questions, paraphrase, summarize. Why? So that you could gain understanding, so that you could continue to investigate, de-escalate, learn what's going on, and figure it out. And he talked also about weapon retention and using a weapon, if it had to come to that, to de-escalate a situation. When Travis moved back home to Satilla Shores, he did so with his 3-year-old son, Everett. He moved in with his mother and his father, and then eventually his sister joined them in the home. You've heard about Satilla Shores from several witnesses who came to talk to you about what they were experiencing in this once idyllic neighborhood. A neighborhood that was once a place where elderly would walk at night, kids would play after dark. But over time, how that began to lessen. And Travis began to notice it, among others, about how things in the neighborhood started to change. From learning that the GBI went around, to learning that Officer Rash went around, to what was being posted on Facebook, to hearing from witnesses on the stand, to hearing Rash talk about driving through the neighborhood, witnesses talking about police cars going through the neighborhood at night, shining flashlights. This neighborhood was being covered in suspicious persons, in extra watches, in neighborhood patrols, in concerned citizens. It was everywhere. It was on Facebook. An account created so neighbors could help each other. And the types of things that these neighbors would talk about to each other was about the crime that was being committed to them, to their neighbors, crime that they had seen happening across the street from them, crime that some was reported but not all. You heard a lot of people talk about, I didn't call the police because what's the point? Crime is over and the people are gone. But they told you that what was happening in their neighborhood scared them. It caused them concern. It was unsettling to imagine people lurking and sneaking around your property at night so that your cameras are going off. Your doorbell camera's going off. That's frightening. One of our witnesses testified about how emotional she got because she had to tell her children, you can't go out at night anymore. And the steps that they took to protect each other, using Facebook, hey, be on the lookout. You heard Cindy Clark testify about how she offered to go get license plates on 2 separate occasions for cars coming in the neighborhood. Or how she called the police on a bunch of people that were walking into the neighborhood after their car had supposedly broken down, but it was really stolen. These are real experiences of real people who were very scared. And so they took it upon themselves to do something about it. Got cameras, call the police, notify each other, citizens watch, neighborhood watch. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Even Travis himself had taken it upon himself to try to investigate one particular person that had been identified as possibly being homeless and living under the bridge. Travis explained to you that he had learned about a neighbor having her purse stolen. Of course, there were other complaints of crime in the neighborhood as well, and he thought, after boating home one afternoon and seeing what he thought was a homeless encampment under the bridge, that this could be the guy. So he finished going home. He got his dad, who is a lifetime law enforcement officer and investigator, and they went over and they drove and they walked down under the bridge. And instantly, when Travis did this, you saw evidence of his muscle memory. He talked about walking down, not holding a weapon out, not armed with the gun out. He had his gun with him just in case he needed it for protection. But he walked down to do what? Use leaps, to listen, to have a conversation. And as he walked down under the bridge, he saw a bunch of trash and a bunch of items and a machete and a man fishing. So he followed his training. He politely stepped in between the machete and the man. He said, "Hey, bud, you living down here? Everything okay?" As he's doing that, he's looking around, looking to see if that purse is there. He's looking to see if any of those other stolen items may be there. The man responded, "No, just fishing." When they left, they called the police. You have evidence of that. You heard Greg McMichael on the call with the police, non-emergency line, just saying, "Hey, we want y'all to go check out this guy under the bridge that we've called you about." State asked Travis, "Well, why don't you describe this fella for us? White, black, Asian, Hispanic?" The white guy. Called the police. He was gone by the time the police got there, and that was the end of it. But the man under the bridge, or the idea that there could be a man living under the bridge, did not go away. That theme and that person comes back during 2019. The real problem, as the neighbors and neighborhood of Satilla Shores were trying to figure out what was going on and who may be responsible for it, was that 220 Satilla Drive residents. A residence that had a unique type of crime going on in it. One much different from what they had been experiencing. So dark you can't even see the photograph of it. But it was the photograph of 220 Satilla Shores at night, along with the dock down by the water at night. And what all of these neighbors are going to soon become aware of is that there is a repeat offender who is coming at a time when he has absolutely no lawful reason for being there. Just to start with, on October 25th, Larry English calls the police. And we learn from Larry English that there is a man plundering around. Larry English at this time only has 2 cameras, one on the dock and one behind the house looking out in the backyard of the house. Larry English says he looks drunk or on drugs. That's concerning. Larry English identifies to the police, "I have a lot of valuables in my house. Tools, equipment, things of that nature. Never seen this gentleman before and it doesn't look good." Police come, but there is no person that is found. What you need to understand about burglary is burglary includes any house building or structure which is designed or intended for occupancy for residential use. This unoccupied, unsecured construction site, which could be anything, is not the same thing as Larry English's residence that's being built. That's a term that the state continues to use, the unoccupied, unsecured construction site, which doesn't even begin to tell the story of what this is. On 11/17/2019, two people are seen on the video. It's a white couple that goes in and comes out. What's significant about Larry English's report, though, on 11/17, is not that the two people that I saw on the video tonight have stolen something. He says we had stuff stolen about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He's now telling the police he had stuff stolen from his home. The next night, Mr. Arbery returns. At night, pitch black dark, no lights on in the house whatsoever. And this time, Larry English has put cameras inside the residence. Now, he sees and reports that Mr. Arbery is looking inside a boat. The same boat? No. No, that boat, he got there on the morning of the 18th, and he took it back to Douglas, Georgia with him. That's what he says right there at the bottom. Brought the boat back to keep from stealing electronics off of it. He is communicating this to 911. This is official. He is reporting again. We had a situation with the same guy a week and a half ago. It says it right there. He was on about 3 people's cameras. And just to emphasize, on 12/1/19, English calls the police again. He talks about somebody might be living under the bridge. That idea is still floating out there, still considering it. But again, he says, I had a bunch of stuff stolen out of the boat, which again confirms what we're talking about. And on 2 of these occasions, we have video of Mr. Arbery inside the residence. The first on the dock, and the second inside the house looking into the boat. The video ends right there. Travis McMichael has his own horrifying experience with a man that he is about to learn has just been involved in all this stuff with Larry English. He's been told some things by his mother and his father and other neighbors before this moment, but he's going to learn some things for himself on 2/11/20. On this night, Travis is driving out of the neighborhood to go get some gas. He wants to fill up so he doesn't have to get 4 a.m. and do it. And on his way out, as he's driving down the road out of the neighborhood, he sees a man run across the street and then duck into the shadows. From this house, ducking through the shadows, through the trees, all the way across until he gets in front of this house. Travis backs his car up and splashes his headlights up on the house. The gentleman steps behind a porta potty. Travis then starts to get out because he wants to say, hey, what are you doing here? The guy comes out from behind a porta potty, lifts his shirt up, and acts like he's reaching in his pocket, and that totally freaks out Travis. Despite his training, despite his experience, it freaks him out. Travis tries to talk to him. Now, the guy never says, hey, I'm sorry, I am so sorry. was walking my dog, or I'm so sorry, I did not mean to startle you, like any one of you would if you were out in a yard late at night. Didn't say anything, just did this. Travis got in his car, reversed out, stalled the car, but backed up and zipped home to tell his dad. As soon as his dad hears what's going on, his dad decides to go check it out. At the same time, Diego Perez has apparently been called, and he's going to check it out. They take firearms with them. Travis tells you, he said, Dad, whoa, wait a second. This guy could be armed. Wait a second. But his dad was already walking down the street. Travis gets in his truck. He backs up. He's calling 911, and he returns to the house where he puts the headlights on the house, watching, waiting, believing that this man could be dangerous, believing that his dad could now be in danger, believing that something awful could happen. So he posts up right here, lights on, and waits for the police that he himself called. And when the police arrive, he stands there and he talks to the police. And he tells them, hey, my dad's in there. Travis, why didn't you go in there? Why didn't you go in the house? He's like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. When this guy did this, that was enough for me. I'm staying out here. It's a reasonable thing to do. Ultimately, Travis calls police, and we hear what he tells police instantly on the phone. We've had a string of burglaries, a lot of burglaries and break-ins. That's what he tells them. That's what's in his mind almost from the very beginning. He startled me. He reached into his pocket. I didn't know if he was armed or not. It looked like he was acting. He was. He's sneaking behind a bush. He also tells the officer he had a pistol stolen about a month ago. This is what he's saying, and you hear him breathing. And the operator says, you all right, hon? Yeah, he just startled me. That's real. That's a real experience with the guy going into a house after being seen at night with headlights and reaching and then turning around and going into a house that's not his. Where is the logic in that? And Travis then stays, talks with the officer, and then sees the video and sees this gentleman just walking around the house like he didn't just get stopped, caught, and seen and had this interaction with Travis like it never happened. He's just walking around the house very calmly. And Travis feels that that is so bold and brazen to do that. It frightens him about this guy. It worries him about this guy. That's real. It's what happened. What happens next is the two officers show up, and being told what they've been told, that the guy acted like he had a gun and that he went into the house, they pull out their firearms and start going through the house, looking and shouting and calling with their guns out because they might need to protect themselves. Are they committing an aggravated assault when they do this? Are they committing a false imprisonment when they do this? No, they're searching, looking, and trying to apprehend whoever's in the house who may be armed. And then everybody meets outside and they talk. And this is where Travis gets the rest of the information. Aside from his own personal experience, he and his father, talking to Officer Rash, Diego Perez, Matt Albenzi, Ronnie Olson, and Brandon Gregory, the officer who also works with Glenn County Police. They talk that night. And they talk about what's been going on. And Travis gets to see the rest of the video and he's like, yep, this guy is that guy. It's all the same guy. Been break-ins, been a lot of burglaries going on. He knows that stuff's been stolen already. And they have a conversation, and you heard part of that conversation from the transcript. Rash says, well, we haven't actually seen him take it. It's because there was no camera on it. But I guarantee you, if one of you left your bag in this room and we all went out into the hallway, and then I walked in here and you saw me walk in here and you never saw me leave, and when you come back in, you walk in, you go, where's my bag? Well, nobody else came in here, but Jason did, and the bag is gone, and oh look, there's a back door. Is it reasonable to believe that I may have taken your bag? Of course it is. This is a burglary. He says, haven't seen him actually take anything? Yeah, criminal trespassing, officer arrested. Yeah, at the very least. Travis is thinking about Ahmaud Arbery. He's thinking about what must be in his mind in order for himself to try to figure some things out. Travis knows that he caught Ahmaud going into the house. He knows that. And so Ahmaud should know that Travis knows that. He knows that Ahmaud has been down on the dock, and that Ahmaud should know he's been down on the dock, that he's been on someone else's property. He's got to know that by now, Travis is thinking. He knows it's not his home or his house under construction. He knows that he's been caught sneaking around the bushes. Travis is the one that caught him. He knows that there's been a confrontation about that. He knows, he believes Mr. Arbery's got to be, this guy, this man has to understand that these things have taken place, that he had headlights on him, that somebody was trying to talk to him about why he was out after dark in front of this house and he didn't respond. If I say to one of you, hey, how are you doing? And you just look at me and you walk away, you know you've looked at me and walked away. You know that that's part of what's happened. And he still went in the house after being confronted in the dark. And then he looked around. He knows that he's in the house looking around. And eventually, that he'll be seen on the 23rd going in the house, and that people were trying to talk to him, and that he's not answering anybody any questions. And ultimately, he knows that the police are on the way. Travis knows these things must be in Mr. Arbery's mind because they were part of the very real experience that he had with him. And because of that, Travis is starting to believe and expect certain things in return. Obvious, ordinary, natural things that should happen in return. To constitute the offense of burglary, it's not necessary that a break-in happen, that something gets broken. If you recall, all the questions by the state of the witnesses, well, was anything broken? Was a window broken? Was a door broken? That's not what's required for the law. Those questions are meaningless and they are red herrings. Nothing has to be broken. You just have to break the plane of the structure to constitute a burglary. Then, you don't have to show that an actual theft had been committed. Nothing actually has to be stolen. You just have to enter with the intent to steal something. Where do we derive a person's intent to steal something from a house? Well, they certainly go into a house that isn't theirs, that contains valuables, and they do it at a time when they shouldn't be doing it, and under circumstances that are very problematic, including running from other people who see you. Lastly, Larry English's deposition. Mr. English couldn't be here, he's very sick. Watching a lot of deposition is a hard thing to do. The basics of this deposition. You made your neighbors aware, the ones that we've mentioned, Al Benzie, Greg, Ronnie Olson, you made these guys aware that you had stuff stolen out of your boat. Yes, and in fact, you wanted your neighbors to help you catch the guy. Yes, Diego. I wanted Diego to catch this guy. You never told them at any point, hey guys, I'm sorry, it wasn't stolen when it was at my house. It was stolen when it was off property. You never told them that, did you, Mr. English? Never told them that. You never announced it on Facebook. You never announced it on Next Door Neighbor. You never corrected what you now say is it was stolen off-site somewhere. You never told your neighbors that. And he says no. So then, therefore, Mr. English, to your knowledge, they were left with the impression that stuff had been stolen from your boat at 220 Satilla. I guess so. What was Ahmaud Arbery doing in Satilla Shores from October 2019 to February 2020? There is no evidence that Ahmaud Arbery ever jogged or exercised in Satilla Shores. Not one friend, not one family member, not one eyewitness, even Rash going door to door. There is no evidence whatsoever that Satilla Shores was a place of exercise and jogging for Ahmaud Arbery. Officer Rash testified that by December 19, he knew Larry had a cooler stolen, electronic equipment stolen from the offshore boat while it was parked in the RV garage. And Bob said, that's a burglary. A burglary had been committed in this residence. And he said, that's right. But it was never reported. Like, we didn't have a report about it, so I didn't really investigate it. But that is a burglary, and he has admitted that to you as well. February 23rd. Mr. Olson's surveillance camera shows that Mr. Arbery walked into the neighborhood. Didn't run. He then stood in the yard and put his hands on his hips and looked around like this, and then went into the residence. Matt Albenzi was doing work in his yard, and he saw this gentleman who resembled the gentleman who had committed what they thought was a burglary in that residence. He shut down the work that he was doing, put a gun in his pocket, grabbed his cell phone, and he walked all the way up to the street to the corner where Jones meets Satilla, where he keeps his mailbox. And he stood there right next to this tree, and he called 911. At some point in the video, when you see Mr. Arbery run out, you'll see he passes right through the window. And Mr. Albenzi is standing right there on the phone calling the police. His behavior then changes. Instantly, Mr. Arbery is at a full sprint, running into the neighborhood. Running into the neighborhood. Which the state is going to infer means he's going on his regular job. But no, because running out of the neighborhood is a problem. It's a problem now because there's a guy standing there on the phone looking at you back in the same residence that you've been caught in now 3 times. Caught meaning on camera, and police coming and searching with lights, and Travis McMichael, and to return to that house in the middle of the day like that after being run off. Imagine going to visit a house under normal circumstances. Oh, this house looks like one we might want to buy. I'm going to go in there. Then somebody comes up to you with headlights and tries to stop you from going into the house and confronts you about it. Are you literally ever going to go back to that house again? It is unreasonable to think that he's going back there for some lawful purpose after being run out of there 3 times before. So he doesn't run out of either of the entrances to go back across the street where he lives. He runs deep into the neighborhood. Someone has called the police. Now, Travis has told you, nothing has erased from his mind about this individual in the 2 weeks between February 11th and February 23rd. It's all still there. And while he's sitting in his home, his dad comes running in the house and says, the guy who's been breaking in down the street is back. He's running past. Get your gun. Travis and his dad carry their firearms for protection wherever they go. That's what they do. The law allows them to do it. They have permits to do it. Travis testified he had a concealed permit at one point. The law allows this behavior. Travis comes out to the street. He looks down the street, right across. Here he is at 2:30. He comes out here. Mr. Arbery has already run past. He comes out here. He looks down the street from where the house is and sees Mr. Matt Albenzi, who is walking towards him, and eventually, after a couple houses, goes like this and points down the street. It is reasonable to conclude that based on what his dad said, who just came running in the house, the guy's back who's broken in, to come outside and look and see Mr. Albenzi, who he knows, who he's talked with, who he shared thoughts and feelings about the person breaking in the house, is now saying, go that way. The guy is back. To get in his car and go. You cannot act on the unsupported statements of others. The state has characterized that, which is an accurate statement of the law, as Travis's mom. Are you kidding? After all that we have seen, after all that he has experienced, after all the conversation that he's had, after all the videos that he's seen, after what he experienced himself, that he's just going off of what his mommy told him? This is what the state wants you to do something about. This is what they're trying to inject into this case, knowing, despite that Travis has called the police on the white man under the bridge, knowing that Travis called the police on a carjacker or told his police friends when he was in the Coast Guard and a report was made about the white guy that tried to rob his truck, knowing that Travis called the police about his gun being stolen and readily admits, I don't know who stole it, knowing that Travis called the police on the 11th of February. They want to try to reduce this case down to this statement, which is not true. Travis had all of this. His reading Facebook, everything going on at Larry English's house, knowing about what was happening in Satilla Shores, speaking with everybody on the 11th, his own experience, Albenzi signaling, Officer Rash and Matt Albenzi. This is what he carried with him when he left his driveway that day. Reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Facts and circumstances to warrant a prudent person, one taking care to understand the truth, in believing that the suspect has committed the offense of burglary. Travis believes he's committed the offense of burglary. The facts necessary to establish probable cause for arrest are less than those required to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's more than suspicion or possibility. It's got to be a probability, probably. And he said, I had a probability. There was a probability that this was the guy who did it, and here's why I think he did it. And I wrote down every one of the things that we talked about as he testified. I wrote them all down, and they are all encapsulated in that slide I just told you. This is where the duty and responsibility in following the law becomes intertwined with heartache and tragedy. Because you do have the right to perform a citizen's arrest. You do have the right to have a firearm when you make an arrest. You do have the right to stop a person and to hold them and detain them for the police. And there is risk with that. And there are tragic consequences that can come from that. And we can all sit here right now and say what the state has said from the very beginning and what Travis himself recognizes. If he had only stayed home that day, if he had just sat on the couch and fallen asleep with his kid that day, Travis told you it's not a day that doesn't go by that he doesn't think that exact same thing. But the law allows the citizens to make a citizen's arrest. And if doing so properly, it is the reason for the actions that follow. Here, you talk about an offense being committed in his presence or when his immediate knowledge. What could be more immediate than February 11th? What could be more immediate than seeing the videos of him in the house and talking with police officers and other people, including hearing from Larry English through others, that he actually had stuff stolen from his property? An offense has been committed, and he knows about it. He's seen everything other than the hand on the equipment that was stolen. If it's a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, then you can arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion, probable cause. Travis said many, many times it was the totality of the circumstances. That's his Coast Guard brain. That's his Coast Guard brain saying everything that I knew gave me the belief that a crime had been committed. Escape. Private citizen's warrant arrest must occur immediately after the perpetration of the offense, or, in the case of felonies, during escape. Not every person is arrested at the moment they commit a crime. Not every person is arrested by police, because sometimes the police don't get there in time. But if they learn about the person and they have information about the person, escape can happen anytime. Escape can happen later. It doesn't have to happen right at the same time the crime is committed. There's no law that says that. There's no time limit imposed. The police would never be able to arrest anybody. And a citizen is in the same shoes as an officer when it comes to citizen's arrest. So, Travis, leaving his house, decides he's going to follow. That's what he does. He pulls out after his dad crammed into the front seat with the kid seat there, and he follows. And he watches. And he pulls up next to this gentleman. No gun is raised. No violence is ensued. He doesn't get out of the car. He doesn't tackle him. He doesn't do anything. He does what a reasonably prudent person would do. He does what his training has taught him to do, to use leaps. And he says, hey, man, what's going on? Can you stop for a second? Please, I just want to talk to you for a second. There is no violence. If Travis wanted violence against this man, if Travis wanted to hurt him or commit an aggravated assault or commit a false imprisonment, he could have done it right then and there. He doesn't. He talks to him. Mr. Arbery looks him in the eyes, doesn't say a word, doesn't have to, but that's information for Travis. Is it so offensive to pull up next to somebody and say, hey man, can you stop for a second? I want to talk to you. Just for a minute. Can you, hold on a second. Is that so offensive? So, he stops. He starts to go back one way. Travis backs up alongside of him, 3 feet away, not pulling in front of him, not pulling behind him, just tries to talk to him. And Mr. Arbery takes off running down the street. And Travis watches him. There he goes. Doesn't take a gun out and shoot him in the back. Doesn't take a gun out and commit an aggravated assault. Doesn't take a gun and try to kill him. Doesn't try to hit him with his truck. He watches him. Watching. So, he pulls up next to him. And he stops again. He says, hey, hold on a second. We just want to talk to you for a minute. Something's going on back there. We want to know what's going on. He's not saying to the guy, I don't know what's been going on in this neighborhood. To do that would do what? It would escalate the situation. So he just says, we want to know what's going on back there. Why is that guy pointing at you? Why is he doing that? Mr. Arbery stops. He looks him dead in the eyes, doesn't say a word, and Travis just says, we want you to stay right here. We're calling the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops. And Mr. Arbery bolts. Now, on the subject of police, Travis told you. Got in the car with my dad. I said, Dad, are the cops coming? Yeah, go this way, go this way. It's very clear. He says he asked his father about the cops being called. They call the cops all the time. This is not like it's a new thing for the McMichaels to call the police. Here, when they say call the cops, now he bolts. And it's on that bolting that Travis thinks this guy knows he's caught. He knows he's caught because he's bolting. He's looked at me. He won't talk to me. That's odd. I'm not talking to him in a too aggressive of a way, and he bolts. And Travis stays right where he is. And he watches. He watches what happens between this truck. He has no clue who this black truck is. In terms of evidence, there is no evidence of any communication between these people, any cooperation between these two people, no help, no assistant, no encouraging, nothing. So he sees this truck and he tells you it's one of a couple things. It's either the guy from up at 220, or it's his buddy, maybe trying to give him a lift, or now that I'm watching him, he's being very aggressive against this truck. He's watching it from 200 feet away, but he's thinking this guy's being really aggressive. There's something off with this guy. His dad says, Travis, go. Dad gets out of the car, climbs in the back of the truck with his rebuilt hip and his medical issues. Travis watches him get in, looks down the street, sees this, takes his gun off the floorboard, puts it up on the bench seat. His dad says, go, get down the street. Travis says, no, I'm not going back that way. Something's off with this guy. I'm not going into that. Well,
hear me.
if
you
you
guys hear me?
wanted to go commit an aggravated assault, if you wanted to go do a false
Hit the
imprisonment,
thumbs
if you
up
wanted
if you
to
can
end the
hear
life
me.
of somebody, whether it's murder or felony murder, there's another chance.
All right,
Yes.
just so for the people who don't know,
watch.
if you can hear me,
And then he says, I'm going to drive
we got
around.
two things happening here. We got
Judge is going to charge you
the
on
live
hijacking a
current
motor
thing
vehicle. A person
happening
commits the
in
crime of
Waukesha,
hijacking a motor
Wisconsin.
vehicle on the second degree when
And
such
then, of
person
course,
obtains
the,
a motor vehicle from an individual without his or her consent. Travis is
Arbery
watching this
death
gentleman
trial.
try to get in the car
Closing
in an aggressive
arguments,
way, and
actually,
he thinks
down in the right.
that does not look good. Whether he thinks to himself that's a hijacking or not, it doesn't look good.
I'm going to see if I can find anything else to throw on
Travis
here
also
for
told you that when he
anybody's
came face to face with
interest.
us, even though he didn't speak, he looked very
What do you guys
angry,
want
he
it to
looked
be
very
about? Do you want it to
upset,
be about the
clenching his
Christmas
teeth.
thing? Do you want it to be
I'm not
about...
saying a word. These are the notes I took about it, right in front of you guys. Just wrote it down as he was talking. Stop, please stop.
I think Buddy's
Mad,
going to
clenched teeth.
go away. I
It's
think
very
he's
unexpected. What's
gone.
going on? I want to talk to you. What's going on? Police are on the way. And then his dad
Not
says,
sure
go
I'm
back. He
coming
says, I am
through,
not
though,
going back.
so-
I'll go from Buford around to Holmes. And that's what he does. He drives around.
All right. I
His
will leave
dad's
you
in
all
the back of
be,
the truck.
and
His dad is older than
I'll be
firm.
back in a minute.
He's sitting on this bench in the back of the truck. Travis says he's going with his foot on the brake pretty much 3 or 4 miles an hour. Drives all the way around thinking, I'm not going to go back into this mess down here. I'll drive around. And when he drives around, you've now learned about this dog leg. That black line essentially is the dog leg. You can't see past it. Travis tells you the first thing he sees is Mr. Arbery doing a U-turn right there at the crest of that turn. What does he do? He watches. Does he drive at him? No. Does he try to tackle him? No. Does he try to put a shotgun at him? No. Does he yell at him? No. He's trying to continue to assess the situation in a reasonable, prudent fashion. Then he drives across the dogleg, comes all the way to the end of the street, and he sees Mr. Arbery again with this truck. Again, with this truck, tangled up with this truck. And what looks like, again, aggression at the truck. So Travis stops. He stops. He's thinking to himself, why is this guy not running through this open yard? This is Satilla right here. This is Holmes. This is where he sees the truck. What is with it that this guy's not going this way? And who is that truck? What's happening? Instead, they both run around Travis, back up around the dogleg. So Travis says, okay, I'm watching, I'm looking, I'm going to pull forward, stop in my car at the end of the street, and I'm just going to take up a spot right here. I'm going to take up a spot here. I know that he's currently not over here. I know he's not behind me. I can see my house right there. I can see up Satilla Drive, and I'm looking up homes. I'm just going to take up residence right here, and I'm going to watch to see what happens next. Because maybe this guy will come back, and we can stop him, or maybe he'll just keep running that way. Maybe he'll keep running that way, and I can tell the police, I'm pretty sure he's not this way, pretty sure he's not over here, he's not there, he's headed that way. What he doesn't know is that Mr. Arbery is turning around up on the other side of the dog leg, and this is where our video picks up with Roddy Bryant. By now, it should be clear. Travis doesn't even know where Roddy Bryant is. To say that Roddy Bryant's turn up there and to follow him back, Travis has no idea what's happening behind the blind side of that curve. And still doesn't know who this truck is and why this gentleman is interacting with it in the way that he is. But this is what's happening unbeknownst to Travis. Mr. Arbery turns around, and you get a quick glimpse of what's up the street, and it isn't Travis McMichael's truck. It isn't there. It's because it's all the way back down homes near Satilla. The state is going to play the recording that you've heard of Mr. Bryant turning, driving and revving and doing all this stuff. This will be the third interaction that Mr. Arbery will have coming at this truck. And Mr. Bryant is freaked out, to say the least. So freaked out, he drops his phone. This is where the phone drops and goes pitch black for about a minute. And in this time, you'll hear sounds. You'll hear engine noise. You'll hear turning. You'll hear shifting. You'll hear seat belts clanking. You'll hear the three-point turn eventually. He says, well, you know what, I'm going to head back that way. But what you don't hear on that phone, even after audio enhancement, even after any kind of working with audio specialists and digital specialists, you'll never, ever hear any yelling and no communication between Travis or Greg. The state wants you to think that it's at this moment. Greg McMichael drives by and says, I'm going to blow your GD head off. Well, if he said it, you'd have heard it. It'd been on that telephone and they'd have played it for you. It ain't there. So, Roddy Bryant is all the way up. This blue mailbox down here, closer up pictures, where Mr. Arbery turns around. This is the demonstration video with Seacrest. And this is Mr. Bryant's actual video. This is how far up the road he is. This is the minute that he's been with his phone down on the floor. And in this minute, 2 times Mr. Arbery is going to run towards Travis. First time, turn around and go back. And the second time, he'll turn around and go back. And that's where that video will pick him up, on the second time. So, the first time, Ahmaud Arbery comes across that dog leg, he's coming at Travis. At this moment, he's looking into Travis's eyes, and he's coming at him, and ultimately is going to get within 10 feet of him running, while Travis is saying, stop, do not come any closer, stop right there, stop. No gun in his hand, just saying, stop, do not come any closer. Now, at this moment, Travis has already had his experience, obviously, where he reached for the gun before, where he was acting bold. He's not going to forget that. He's not going to forget that he just saw what looked like attacking this truck, acting violent, being bold. And none of what he experienced that day will be forgotten. I'm trying to talk to him. We want to talk to you. What's going on? We've called the police. And noting that he's not acting right, something is off, and Dad's saying going back there, and he said, no way, I'm not going back to that. But now, he's running at Travis. We have proof that he was on that truck, because his palm print is right there, and it's consistent with a right thumbprint right there. That's just one piece of proof that his hands were on the door that supports Travis's belief that he was trying to get into that truck. And here he comes. And Travis finally takes a stand and says, do not come any closer to me. Ultimately, Travis, when he gets about 10 feet, reaches into the truck like this, and that's what causes Mr. Arbery to turn. And he runs all the way back. Travis testified, I ran to him for about 10 yards. I don't know, because my main concern is this guy's got a gun. I'm trying to avoid the whole situation from happening. So he watches him. There's two options here. There's watching him until the police arrive and giving directions, and there's also stopping him. But he's not going to chase him to stop him. But he is going to try to stop him and detain him, especially when he's coming at him. So he watches. Again, taking up, looking out, trying to be ready. And by the way, where are the police? Where are they? They should be here by now. That's what he says to his dad. Where the heck are the police? Did you call the police? No, I don't have my cell phone on me. He's like, what? Dad. Yeah. Dials the number, gives it, listens, gives it to him. Again, it's what they do. They call the police. And now Ahmad is coming back for the second time. Travis felt, and it was through rehabilitation on redirect examination that we learned during his interview with Nohili, he was telling Nohili the same things. There's something not there. This gentleman is not connecting it up. Something's not right. I'm telling him to quit, stop coming at me. I see where it's going. The second time around, I see where this is going. And by the way he was acting prior to, I don't know if he had a weapon on him. An aggravated assault, by the way, is a felony that can be committed by the use of fists. The threat of the use of a dangerous object or weapon. The threat of it. The intent to use your fist to create serious bodily injury. Fists are that weapon. And right now, as Ahmaud Arbery is running toward Travis McMichael, he could have a gun, and he definitely has fists. And he's coming straight at him after being told the first time to stop and turn around, and didn't do it until Travis had to reach inside his car. That has now put him on alert. The second time that Mr. Arbery comes down the street, Travis says he gets 30 to 40 feet from him. He's afraid that he will be on him in a matter of seconds. He is afraid that he will beat him with his fist or whatever weapon he might have. And he's scared. And so he's done what he thinks the law allows him to do, which is to try to de-escalate that approach by showing force. Showing force necessary to prevent Travis himself or his father from getting beaten and possibly killed. And so he raises the gun. And he does it to defend himself, to protect himself. They call it the 21-foot rule. So he was a little early. He was at 30 to 40. But he did it because he was afraid. And what happens is it causes a reaction from Ahmaud. He changes from the left side of the road to the right, but then he starts coming back at Travis across the road again, and then gets even closer. He starts on the left. It causes him to change, but then he comes back again. Once the gun is down, he comes back again and changes to the left side of the road, and now we see him going back over toward the right. Now, Travis, this is his truck looking down on it. Travis is here, originally in the door jamb, but he told you, as Mr. Arbery came closer, he did this and made him change direction. Now he's coming, he's wavering on the road, and so Travis is walking away. He's backing up. He's not charging at him. He's backing up to try to create space and distance. He has this gun here, and he is literally watching him. We see his foot plant right there, and Travis is thinking to himself, please turn, please turn, please turn. That's what he told y'all. That's what he told Nohilly. Please turn into this yard. Please don't come at me. I am backing up. I'm just trying to keep an eye to make sure please don't come at me. And as he comes around to the far side of the truck, he can't see him. He's backed up over here, so he's stepped up over here to try to get a look at what's happening because he's afraid that Mr. Arbery is going to be down or finally go for the gun or seek cover or something. Please turn, please turn. Please go off into this yard. He never, ever, when he left his driveway that day, thought that things would end this way. Not ever. He told us, I'm on the left side of my truck. I'm waiting for him to get by. He told us, if he would have run by me, no problem. I was giving him the opportunity to run by me. Travis doesn't have a duty to retreat. He's allowed to stay where he thinks he is lawfully allowed to be and to try to defend himself and others. And then Ahmad takes that turn. Not this turn, but this one. And you'll see his feet come, his elbow raises, and Travis is thinking, if this guy gets a hold of my shotgun, this is not going to end well. He's going to end up with the shotgun and kill me. Travis is thinking, my son. Ahmad comes around, squares up, and you will see Travis's head is right there. His head never comes past that seat post. But you will see Ahmad come across to Travis, and the first shot happens right over here. You can watch up top as he moves across. You see the white shirt moving across in between those two headrests, and you see Travis's head never comes beyond that front end of his truck. It's all up here with the t-shirt. Right here, his head is down. He's in full charge. First shot has already happened. You can see the same movement under the truck. If you'll look here, this is the shadow. It's kind of, eventually becomes kind of circular like a stop sign. But you'll see it moving in between these wheels right here. You see it? There it is, moving back, coming forward, coming all the way across. He's charging with his feet. Travis is trying to brace himself. Is there any question that Ahmad Arbery had his hands on this firearm? Any question at all? Travis in his interview told you, I was under shock, I was under stress, I don't know. If he had his hand on the gun, I think he did. I think he did. I think he had my shirt. I think he was punching me. Travis is in a state of disrepair. There is no question that Ahmad's hands are on this gun. And the medical examiner from that stand told you that if Ahmad Arbery is grabbing this gun and trying to pull it away, that as the gun gets pulled out of his hands and fired, it could fire right on that wrist and shoot into the chest and go across the body. Pull it straight out. No question. This is about this gun. Travis turns into Ahmad, trying to use his entire body, pulls the end of the shotgun away from him, gets pushed across the road into the grass, and the second shot goes off. Here's the plume, and it's believed that it didn't hit Mr. Arbery. Travis, coming out of the grass now, trying to yank this gun from Mr. Arbery. Again, trying to yank it away from him. Ahmad's hand still on it. Ahmad's fist now raising. Is there any question that Ahmad Arbery is assaulting Travis McMichael right before that third shot? Not one single bit of question. And that third shot goes off. And these two men end where they started, face to face, looking into each other's eyes. Never a word being spoken by Mr. Arbery. And it is absolutely horrific and tragic that this has happened. And again, this is where the law is intertwined with heartache and tragedy. You are allowed to defend yourself. You are allowed to use force that is likely to cause death or serious bodily injury if you believe it's necessary. At that moment, Travis believed it was necessary. This is a law that is for a person in Travis's situation. And you can do it to prevent death to yourself or a third person, or to prevent the commission of a forcible felony, like aggravated assault. Aggravated assault is a felony which can occur by use of fists. Greg McMichael with a hip replacement, heart attack, stroke, sitting in the back of that truck. Travis was afraid for him. If this was a case about wanting to murder a black jogger, if this was really a case about that, Travis would not have reacted the way he reacted. It was described to you by Brooke Perez. She talked about how totally freaked out he looked, how totally discombobulated he was. And she was right. The officer saying, just breathe, just breathe. Just take a minute, just breathe. Just calm down. I know, just hold on a second. It was from that spot to this spot, within just an hour and a half of what had happened, where he would be brought for several hours of questioning. He was afraid. He was in shock. His adrenaline was still going through his body. You guys know how fear and worry works. You sat here through jury selection all day and probably felt that just by getting asked questions for an hour. Travis testified, even though he didn't have to. The judge will give you the law that cloaks Travis in sort of a shield of silence. You don't have to testify. You are presumed innocent. You have the right to remain silent. The state has to prove that you did that. You don't have to get up there and testify. He did, because he wanted you to understand what happened from him. He told you about the thefts and the burglaries, the totality of the facts, why he believed what he did, that he wanted to follow him, that he wanted to talk to him, that he wanted to stop him, for the police to detain him. Don't be fooled by this word arrest. You don't have to announce you're under arrest. He told you why he raised the gun, because he was afraid that he would be on him within seconds. And the gun did exactly what he hoped it would be. It deterred him. And why ultimately he shot. The state wants to criticize Travis for testifying. I thought of this example as the state was talking about bias and prejudice. Travis is a liar. He's a liar because he has everything to gain by testifying here. He's got everything to lose by testifying. We are judgmental people. He's got 2 hours to tell you what happened, at the risk of all of you sitting in judgment of him and saying, I don't believe him. He's got everything to lose. But should he be labeled as so biased because the state indicted him for murder and brought this case to a trial where he has the right to testify if he wants to? Should we label him biased and motivated and a liar because he took the stand? How about I say to any of you, prove your name. Prove to me what your name is. I'm going to make up a name since we're not naming you and we're not identifying you. My name is Patricia. Okay, Patricia, prove your name is Patricia. Well, okay, my mother. I'll bring my mother into court. What are we going to say about your mother? Well, of course she wants to help you prove your name is Patricia because she's your mother. She loves you. She's on your side. See, that's how that works. Well, here's a piece of paper that says, here's a piece of mail that says my name is Patricia. Well, of course you bring that document, but where'd that come from? You could have doctored that up. This kind of stuff, while credibility is for you to determine, this whole assuming that somebody is biased simply because they elect to come and tell you what happened is a game. It's an unfair game. I wanted to show you the law about arrest and what it says, that it doesn't require you actually announcing that you are under arrest. It's doing any seizing or taking or detaining, either by touching or by any act indicating an intention. Stop where you are, stop right now, and at the last moment, he said stop and get on the ground. Even along Holmes or Burford, stop. Let me talk to you. Stop. He's trying to detain him. Travis could have not gotten in his car. Travis could have told his dad, "This is not going to work today, Dad. You can't sit in the baby seat. Let's just go back inside." Travis could have watched Ahmaud run down the road. He could have done everything other than what actually happened. He could have done any of that and wishes that he would have. But that does not mean that his actions on that day weren't rooted in the law that enabled him to go out there based on everything he knew to do what he did that day. Travis could have is another red herring. It's a flawed argument to take you off and to make you feel emotional about this case. That we would be here but for. Well, of course that's true. But then we could go back and say Travis wouldn't be here but for his grandparents making his mother and father. But for is loose. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about probable cause, totality of circumstances, actual events. But for is some loosey-goosey, illegitimate term. You will not see it in the definition of probable cause. Travis told you, understanding that what he could have done differently that day would mean that Ahmaud Arbery was still alive. He told you. I know that. I know that I killed somebody. And me, him, and our families, we will never be the same. And he carries that with him every day. The murder charge, along with the felony murder charge, the intentional acts is what those are broken down to. Intentionally choosing to commit a crime that either intends to take the life of somebody or ultimately takes the life of somebody. The only time in this case where life was in danger was at the very end of Holmes, when Mr. Arbery chose to cut that turn and go all the way across the front of that truck. Every time they encounter each other on this road, 3 times in front of Roddy Bryan's house, 2 times at the end, 2 times down here. If he wanted to kill him, that's just a nonsensical argument. This was not about taking someone's life that day. Mr. Rubin mentioned to you in his opening statement about duty and responsibility. And I agree with that. Travis felt a duty and responsibility. He has felt it when he served in the Coast Guard. He's felt it to his community, and he felt it on this day, on the 23rd of February, and he felt it during this trial when he took the stand and testified. He felt it was his duty and responsibility to do that. The state, too, has a duty and responsibility. They have a responsibility to be honest with you, to incorporate all of the facts, and take on their burden. The state spent 2/3 of their opening argument saying what we were going to say. It was like 2 kids getting in trouble, and the first one that gets to the parent and says, so-and-so did something, and the parent needs to say, well, hold on a second, let's hear from the other child. They have a duty to you to prove under the law that Travis, at the time he raised that gun, was not in fear. That at the time Travis shot Mr. Arbery, as he came across the front of that car and held the gun and punched him, that he was not in fear of receiving a serious injury or death. And they have a duty to prove to you that when Travis stopped to talk to Ahmaud, that he did so to commit a felony of aggravated assault. It's every time you're walking in your neighborhood and somebody pulls up a truck next to you and says hi or hey, they've committed an aggravated assault or a false imprisonment. Where's the evidence of that? The last duty that is here is yours. And this is a very, very tough one. You all understand, and I will not belabor, the lengths that we have gone to meet you, to understand who you are, to understand your background, to understand the thoughts that you have about certain things, and the way that we communicated with each other for several hours to arrive at the point where we felt in our hearts and our minds that you all would carry the banner of the duty and the responsibility that is yours as jurors. This courtroom is sacred. It is our last place for truth. It is where we pull it from the witnesses if we have to, and we present it to you. And we ask that you hold it dear and that you accept your duty to not erode the law as you sit here and think about what the law allows a citizen to do. It is going to take courage. It's going to take courage to set aside what you think and feel, what may be trying to penetrate you from other sources that you have tried to do your best to avoid, and to focus on the bare facts of this case that have been captured on photograph and on video that have been testified to in this courtroom. It will take courage. In every count in this case, you're going to be asked to make a decision about each person accused. Travis McMichael will have his form, Greg McMichael his, and Roddy Bryant his. And you will be given the option on every one of these charges for not guilty or guilty. The evidence that's been demonstrated to you, I think, is overwhelming, but it doesn't come without hardship on you, consequence for these families. But I think the evidence is clear in this case. Travis had spent 9 years in the Coast Guard, search and rescue, policing the water, sometimes 200 feet offshore, going into situations that were very difficult, working with law enforcement, reaching out and extending his hand as firefighter, law enforcement officer combination. For the first time in his life, Travis is now in those waters. He is now the one who needs help. Our goal here has been to do everything we can to dive into those waters, to search for the truth, to pull it from the icy depths and to raise it to the surface. And we have done that. We have done that with Travis McMichael. We have carried him to the surface to you. And now the choice is yours. Will you do as he has done in the past to others? Will you reach out your hand and extend it to Travis McMichael and pull him out of those waters? I think if you've heard anything that I've said, there's only one decision. He is not guilty on all charges. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Yeah, we can just go ahead. Yeah. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are at a point we're going to break for lunch. We'll break for an hour. Or just a little bit under. We're going to reconvene at 1:30. Again, until all of the closing arguments have been made and you have received the final charge of the court, you are not to discuss this case amongst yourselves. So, with that instruction and all of the other instructions I've given you, enjoy your lunch. We'll see you back here at 1:30.
So rise for adjourned.
Alright, guys. While we're on a break here for the Arbery case, let's see what we can find going on. We do have a press conference from the police coming up in 84 minutes. So I got that all queued up and ready to go. I guess I could probably put the volume on the other one. I mean, we'll see. I was kind of thinking there probably wasn't much to hear other than air and noise and whatever's going on out there, but that's alright, because it gives us something here. I'm just going to see if I can find something. Not very many people are covering the parade from last night. Terrible though. Alright, so let's see here. Let's check Facebook and see if there's anything going on the Facebook. Probably not.
Fair enough. I wasn't going to be carried all the way through the field in the dark.
I'm not seeing. I know what we could do. What am I gonna do? Let's see here. I think I want a browser? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. I suppose we will find out. Alright, while we're waiting for updates, because I have to interact with this. Alright. I don't want to log in. Let's just... Why can't I scroll? I guess I can't scroll. Anyhow, this is the person that did it. This is who done it. He done it. Yep. And from what appears to be his background on his life and his rap sheet and stuff, he should have been the one that got hit by the car. Like, what the hell? I don't even know. I don't get it. It's weird. But I guess he really loved his Ford Escape or whatever that was that he was driving. You know, doing a rap song in front of it and all. I'm cool. Yeah, right, buddy. Whatever. You're not that cool. Nobody cares, buddy. Nobody cares. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to just crop this, because apparently I'm unable to look at that. I probably have to do a window something or other. Anyhow, he's the guy, so let's just put him someplace. I don't know where. Here? We're going to shrink it a little bit. There we are. He did that. And that. We're going to put this down here. Whoa, what was that? What is that? Oh. Put that there, make that a little bigger. Okay. Now, oh, we got that. Put him down here. There. We're getting it figured out, people. It's all good. Alright, so being that I can't share that, I'm just going to speak it. How does that sound? Oh, CNN hasn't released? Oh. Say what? Okay, hold on here. Guys, I gotta just type something in here. My question is why the hell does it matter if we're black, white, pink, blue, yellow, really any other colors? What the hell does it matter? I don't understand why people have to always make everything about race. I just don't get it. So do we know anything about what happened with this guy and the reason why he did what he did? I mean, are we ever gonna know? Yeah, I don't really think he's got much of a... Hey, cheeseburger. I don't really think he's got much of a leg to stand on. Yeah, do you have his... Oh, shoot, you can't send links, can you? No, because you're not a mod. I was going to say, if you have any links of... can you type his name in on social media if it's still up? I've been looking. He was an active Blind Lives Matter, posted numerous white hate memes, was actually in... Oh, he was at the courthouse in Kenosha, Lisa? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go back and look at some of those. So what was this about a knife fight? That he was leaving a knife fight. Did anybody hear that? I didn't know he was in Kenosha, but I knew he had gotten out that day. Wow. So it's probably pretty good to say that this was connected to the Rittenhouse verdict. Just terrible. Well, he made it very clear he was going to run people down, is what I heard. I'm not sure about the threat, though. That apparently the Black Lives Matter people said something about they'd have pain, or people would feel pain in the morning or something. I don't know if that was a direct... Okay, I can't say these words on live because I get in trouble and YouTube gets mad at me. And YouTube's already kind of pissy with me, so I don't want to get them pissier. So, he was an SO. I agree, it was the correct verdict. Now, he did sick shit to little people, is what I'm trying to say. He is an admitted not drug, but other person trafficker. Why do they say color, though? That's the thing. Why is everything so motivated by color? Like, I don't understand that. Hold on here. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit because it's windy, apparently. Yeah, but why is everything so motivated by color is what I want to know. Oh, someone please tell. Oh crap, what am I doing? I'm not learning how to use my phone is what I'm doing. Yeah, but I don't understand why division is what's happening when everybody wanted unity. Like, I don't understand where this division part came in. When did they flip the script? I wonder where they're going. So, okay, can you guys tell me what makes up the Black Lives Matter movement thing? It clearly can't just be all black people, because that's one big blanket thing, and I guarantee not all black people are on board with what happened last night, regardless of what that verdict was on Friday with Rittenhouse. I'll be streaming too, with my own commentary with it, the Carson, what's his pickle name? Tucker Carlson's interview with Rittenhouse tonight at 5, my time Pacific. Calling Trump and anyone that was a Trump supporter a racist. They made a red hat a symbol of hate. So this all stems back from Trump. I'm a Canadian, so yeah. My co-host and boyfriend is American. He's on the night shows. So I'm not black either, I'm white. Just really sick. It's sick. It's so freaking sick. This whole thing, like, oh my god, why the hell is there so much hate? It so pisses me off, like. I also want to know something. Why the hell did he get out? Why was he allowed only on $1,000 bond or bail? He was allowed out. The sick shit he did to kids. Why would they let? Oh, like what is happening with this world? It's disgusting. It's terrible. It's So is this going to make the Black Lives Matter thing all like negative now, like more so than what it was, or is he going to take the heat just on his own and outside of Black Lives Matter? Did they get the guy yet? Yeah, they arrested him last night, Kay. If words get flagged, Kaylee, by YouTube, we'll deal with the comments then. Don't ban or time out anybody unless it's totally out of hand. Please and thank you. Not from Trump because they hated him and to come up with a narrative to divide us. This is exactly what a lot of hate and racism. Well, there's definitely a lot of that going on. Like, what were people thinking? Like, seriously, when they were at this parade yesterday, what were they thinking? Like, they're just doing their thing? Having a good time? Doing their thing? Doing whatever? And bam, this car comes out of nowhere. Like, the videos that aren't the graphic videos. Trying to start a race war, in my opinion. Yeah, well, that is very big possibility. God, I thought we're supposed to be making progress on this race stuff, not go backwards. It's so mind-blowing. See, and then I don't understand people. This person here, Triple C on Twitter, writes, Cal Rittenhouse is heading to Waukesha. Drivers of red SUVs beware. Like, what the hell? I'm gonna put a link in the I'm gonna put a link in the description, wherever that is. Hold on here, guys. I'm trying to find my description. So under further information, there's a link to the GoFundMe that's supposed to help the South Band from Waukesha. So yeah, there's that. 18 times or more Waukesha, Daryl, retaliation from Rittenhouse, yeah. It's definitely crazy. If anybody's wondering what I'm doing, I'm just trying to find information. And being I can't, for some reason, it's just as bad as the news. Yeah, they got the guy. Uh-oh. Our feed is leaving. Okay. Yeah, no, they had him last night, didn't they? I thought they did. Pretty certain they had him. So, like I was saying earlier, we're doing a show today on what mainstream media doesn't want us to know. So we're going to show all the shit that I guess we're not supposed to know. And, Okay, one thing I want to mention is that I just came across this, that it says here that Kyle Rittenhouse flashed the white supremacist hand signals while hanging out with an infamous white supremacist group, the Proud Boys. So we understand his motivation. Now, that I would believe if he killed a black person. If any of the two people were black. Any of the people, if Gage was black, if any of them were black, I could understand maybe race had something to do with it. It was white on white. Where did race come into this? Actually, there's a video here. Let's see if I can find it of Rittenhouse. It's a little leak, or a bigger leak of the interview from tonight. Like I said, I'm going to try to stream that as much as I can anyway before I get into a little bit of trouble. I shouldn't, right? Right. But there was a video of Rittenhouse. Let's see here. Don't believe what? What you talking about? Why didn't this... Okay, hold on here. I seem confused. Yeah. Well, I can't find this. Hold on here. What? Maybe they are blocking it from me because they don't want me to. They don't want me to know. Rittenhouse interview. Yeah, there it is. I found it, guys. Do you want to hear it? Because this is something, I don't know. Just let me put it up.
Whether you're building dynamic network models or forecasting real-world behavior, Neo4j's new group.
I do want to start off with the latest and all reaction, really, to the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, exclusively from Rittenhouse himself. He and his mother spoke exclusively to Fox News this weekend after the not guilty verdict was delivered on Friday by a Wisconsin jury. Fox News correspondent Mike Tobin has more on that from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Let's take a listen.
I tell everybody there what happened. I said I had to do it. I was just attacked. I was dizzy. I was vomiting. I couldn't breathe.
Kyle Rittenhouse opening up for the first time after being acquitted of all charges, telling Fox News' Tucker Carlson in an exclusive interview about how the verdict brought both relief and vindication.
This case has nothing to do with race. It never had anything to do with race. It had to do with the right to self-defense.
Right.
I'm not a racist person. I support the BLM movement. I support peacefully demonstrating. And I believe there needs to be change.
Rittenhouse had been on trial for shooting 3 men, killing 2 during violent protests last summer in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The jury ultimately agreeing with the defense's argument that Rittenhouse was defending himself after being attacked by protesters. This round of protests thus far has been small and peaceful. In Portland, demonstrations flared to the point where police called them a riot. Mostly what we saw were marches in places like Chicago and Minneapolis. Demonstrators complained that the verdict will encourage vigilantism. The family knows not everyone believes justice was served.
It's not about winning or losing. There was 2 people that did passed away, and families have to grieve.
Here in Kenosha, citizens and business owners hope the worst is over and they can move on. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
Alright, sorry about that. I don't know what the hell happened. I was having problems. So do you guys think it's true? That it was a race-driven attack? Whoa, 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 come back, whoa. It's a little under an hour before we hear what the police have to say. I know there was a children's hospital update on the kids that were put there from last night, but I don't know. So, I guess the last tally of what's what is 5 dead and 40 plus injured. I'm trying to figure out where they're taking us. Anybody know what that is? Other than a yellow truck? Alright, let's see what else is happening in the world regarding this. I'm gonna play this, guys, because I don't know if this is real or, like, I just don't know.
Party City is now a Canadian Tire, and I've got some party ideas. Birthday Rewind! Friday.
Now in Kenosha at this hour, it's quiet after Friday's acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse, the 18-year-old Illinois teen found not guilty of several homicide charges for killing 2 people and injuring 1 other in unrest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake in 2020. But tension in that town continues as arguments grow over what the verdict really means.
We must recognize that we are on the right side of history, no matter what those motivated by hate say.
Another day of protest on the weekend following the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse. A smaller group compared to yesterday's Chicago march, but the message is the same, a refusal to accept the Rittenhouse verdict as justice served. The uncle of the Kenosha man, Jacob Blake, whose shooting by police sparked the unrest in which Rittenhouse shot 3 people, marching with the Rainbow Push Coalition and others, gathering outside the Kenosha County Courthouse, where the teen left a free man on Friday. The marchers stopping at the car lot, which had been scorched during those sleepless nights in August of 2020, and then through a quiet downtown Kenosha. Organizers promising a campaign of economic pressure.
They're a capitalistic society. Capital makes a difference. There will be basketball games shut down. There will be football games shut down. There will be disruption, economic disruption behind this. There's not a fight that the Blake family doesn't want to be in around this country to help get African Americans what's overdue.
In an interview this morning with Fox News, Kyle Rittenhouse's mother says his life will have its struggles as he seeks more schooling and fends off those who would want to hurt him.
He does have remorse. But talking to him now, he would never want down there if this ever happened again. He would never.
In the aftermath of the criminal trial, now the civil courts may get busy.
You may see some of the victims decide to sue Kyle Rittenhouse. Remember, the legal standard in a civil case, much lower than in a criminal case. And then, of course, there's the flip side of it, which is that Kyle Rittenhouse may end up suing people who said things about him that he says were inaccurate.
And in excerpts released today from a Fox News post-verdict interview with Rittenhouse, he says he supports Black Lives Matter and the right to peaceful protest.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our
All right, so It says here that Joe Biden made a comment about the Waukesha shit. Apparently he has harsher words for Kyle Rittenhouse than he does for the murderer from Waukesha. Thomas Hawk says, there's not one single word of the identification of Waukesha murderer in my local news. Not one. All these media games make me sick. Okay, so they're trying to make it seem like it was an unintentional act. He was leaving the scene of a crime, of another crime, when this happened. I guess the question is why would they lie? We'll probably figure that out later tonight. I'm sure Bob has a lot of insight on this. Okay, so following Sunday's parade, this was as of a minute ago by Dom Proto. 18 children were admitted between 3 years old and 16 years old, including 3 sets of siblings. 10 of those children were admitted to the ICU. 6 are in critical condition, 3 serious, and 1 is in fair condition. 18 kids, 16 and younger. Kids. This guy attacked kids. Our children. The most innocent of the innocent. He attacked. Sick. Absolutely sick. "42 minutes until the update from the police." You can obviously see that down there at the right-hand corner. The people who cannot see that down there in the right-hand corner, it's 42 minutes and 32 seconds. Up in the right, or at the top left corner, is the live footage from Waukesha, I guess around where the stuff happened. I'm gonna put this up. I'm not too sure. We have a police update coming in 41 minutes or so. I'm gonna just play this video though. It's called The Truth About Waukesha Tragedy. I'm just gonna put it up here. Just hold on a second. Uh-oh.
Deadly
deadly attack killing and injuring Wisconsin children, the elderly, band members, and cheerleaders by an SUV during the annual Christmas parade in Wisconsin was the last thing America needed. Days after the Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal drove the hordes of Marxism back into the streets, the optics of the tragedy were nauseating and infuriating to most Americans.
The single ambulance available in the city of Waukesha was dispatched to the parade scene, and they had to bring in ambulances from outside Waukesha.
From the outset, the facts were hard to come by, even as the police held 2 press briefings revealing very little about the dead, the injured, the driver, and the details.
The person struck by the officer was fired.
That's still an ongoing investigation of how many are involved at this time. We're still working those details out.
Immediately, leftist sociopaths began tweeting their twisted opinion of the horrific events. Some trolling that the driver was acting in self-defense, while others blamed white supremacy, claiming the driver was a white supremacist or was fleeing white supremacy. Meanwhile, the Mockingbird media diverted the narrative that was growing into a scenario far more sinister than the events of Charlottesville.
I honestly don't believe that the intent of this driver was to target this specific event. Otherwise, he or she would have been causing greater harm earlier on throughout. The video when the SUV came up to the marching band, you could see that he or she tried to position the vehicle more towards the left, but again, panic probably set in. Hit the accelerator, and we saw that tragic event, and those victims, again, not even know that that vehicle was coming towards them. So the evidence is pointing more towards this not being a targeted attack on this event itself, and I think that should, calm officials throughout the country that, this isn't some sort of directed attack towards, holiday events.
Right, because we know, too, not long after the first update, actually, that we got from officials there on the ground was that there was no ongoing threat.
As eyewitnesses reported seeing a black man driving the SUV that plowed over predominantly white parade revelers.
That because I'm a white guy out of Waukesha saying black guy did it.
Okay.
But this is what her daughter said.
Rick, I should inform you.
It was a black guy with dreadlocks by himself. I don't know if you want to use that.
Okay, well, listen, Rick.
And I'm not, hey, I'm a black guy, so I'm not, saying that because I'm a white guy out of Waukesha saying black guy did it.
Okay.
While the left's rhetoric that dangerously leads all the way to the White House gradually became suspect in the whole debacle. But as the police scanner audio leaked info on social media,
deputies identifying tall, fat, lighter-skinned black male, dreadlocks, red shirt, no shoe.
the driver turned out to be Milwaukee rapper Math Boy Fly.
Then make it hard to breathe like it's George Floyd. Middle finger to police, blood don't get me started.
AKA
Darrell Brooks.
Black male, late 30s, with a rap sheet of domestic abuse, including a felony for reckless endangerment. And before the media begins making excuses for Darrell E. Brooks, claiming that he was fleeing in panic and should not be regarded as a terrorist, numerous videos reveal that no police were pursuing him except for one on foot after he began driving over people. There was plenty of daylight. Brooks could see the women and children he was plowing over with the SUV. Brooks passed several streets that could have taken him far away from the crowd, and Brooks could have stopped the vehicle at any moment, or at the very least, driven it away from the crowd. But he kept on going, disregarding the innocent American lives that were beneath him. John Bound reporting.
Wow. That's interesting. They're trying to downplay the attack. The fact that Fox 6 now has their 11 a.m. anchor call it a holiday parade. If you look on the Waukesha Facebook page, days leading up to yesterday calls it a Christmas parade, but saying that could mean the guy was targeting Christian-centered people. Are we really at that point where we have to censor every single thing we say because it could be taken 50,000 different ways? It's like a happy holiday. I don't know. I don't do that. It's Christmas to me. CNN, I agree. Totally. Yeah, he was just fleeing the scene of another crime. It's okay though, guys. He's just fleeing the scene. It just so happened the parade got in his way. And he had no choice. At any point in time, did anybody ever see him hit the brakes on the car? I mean, other than logical times, you know, when he's like going around a corner, or, you know, one would think when he's like ramming into people that he would have actually maybe have shown something that he cared, maybe, just maybe. If he is a trafficker of children, he don't care about kids, right? If he did what he did to children, he doesn't care about kids. He doesn't care about people. And they want us to believe that he was just fleeing the scene of another crime. Really? Man, they must think people are idiots. Like, seriously. Okay. Let's see what this is. This is... Oh! This could be interesting. Uh-oh. How come I can't get the link? Uh-oh. Oh, Chanel, there's the link. Pause that. Hit that. Do that. Paste that. Go done. And hit that. Here's another one. I'm not sure. Uh-oh. Hold on, hold on. I'm coming.
The truck came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you just hear the sound of people getting hit.
The sound was crazy.
The sound was scarred, and so was the image of it.
Mom, get over here. Are you okay? What happened?
I'm a nurse, and my mother-in-law was saying, can you go and help people? Can you go and help people? So I went out there. The first gentleman we saw on the ground had people by him. He was alert and oriented, awake. So we moved on from him across the road, and that's when we came across the little boy that was in the road, turning purple. I didn't really have to do CPR on him, but I felt his neck for a pulse, and he had one, but his eyes were barely open, and his face, all I can remember is his sweet little innocent face was purple. He wasn't really with us.
He wasn't stopped. He went through all 6 blocks of the parade, and I think his motive was really pure evil. So.
And what blows my mind is that it's all kids in the parade. Like, it's all kids.
It's just a parade.
Mom, come on. Jack, come on. Shots fired. Come on.
Absolutely terrible.
It's Waukesha. We're a small community. This kind of stuff doesn't happen here.
Not at all.
Hear about it, but now that we're hearing the injuries and stuff that are coming through, we all know somebody or know somebody who knows somebody, you know, it's that kind of community. So it's just that we will definitely all be here for each other. I hope that I can see this little boy make it through it and see him and his family. I would love to give him a hug if he's okay.
Come on, Grandpa. Come to the back. Come to the back. Grandpa, there's shots fired.
Okay, at the end there it said that about the shots fired. There were shots fired. Not by the suspect, but by the police to try to stop the suspect. Wow. That's terrible. There's one tweet here. It says, and just like that, hashtag Daryl Brooks gets Waukesha, Wisconsin to stop trending. Oh, wow. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I wonder if there's any truth to this. Hold on. Hey, cameraman. So the Waukesha murderer was out on bail from an incident in which he deliberately ran over the mother of his own child? What is happening? I'm not sure. So, 26 minutes from now is when the thing's going to be going on. I'm going to leave this. Do you want... volume. I can give you volume.
An urgent message for anyone with toenail, fingernail,
oh,
skin
gosh.
fungus. This
Dang.
discovery could save your life.
I apologize. Wow. He's talking in secret, you know how I know? He put his thing over his mouth.
All right, welcome back. So everybody enjoyed
Okay.
their lunch.
I'll play this until
we are ready to proceed with closing arguments.
update.
So, on behalf of Gregory McMichael.
Thank you, Your Honor.
On the next break, we have something we need to put on the record that transpired over lunch. My apologies.
Okay.
My father worked for almost 50 years as a life insurance salesman, not because he liked it, because he didn't. He did it because he had 3 kids that he wanted to see grow up in a neighborhood that was safe and secure. A safe home surrounded by a community of neighbors who cared for each other. Band-Aids for skinned knees, July 4th parties, block parties that went on for hours, crocheted baby blankets when a new child was born, casseroles when we'd lost a loved one. He worked hard day and night to provide those things for the people that he loved. Larry English was a contractor in Douglas, Georgia, who worked hard every day to provide for his wife and 2 children, and to save for his dream to live on the water in a neighborhood just like that, safe, secure, filled with people who would care for each other. And when he became ill, he and his wife, Amy, had to fast forward their dreams. They fast forwarded that retirement dream, bought that land, and began working on their dream home, the project of building that home in Satilla Shores. It's the sort of life we all have the right to seek. The safety and security and comfort of people that we care about and who care about us. We work hard for our stuff. It's ours, and no one has the right to take it. And we should never, ever have to fear intruders. The police can be counted on to help, to respond, but they can't be everywhere and they can't be everything. A good neighborhood is always policing itself. Mr. Moore, you really need to put a fence around that swimming pool. I'm worried a child will fall in. Mrs. Pennock, Bobby is flying down Crossbrook Drive again in that new car. You have to talk with him and get him to slow down so no one is hurt. The police can't be everywhere, and in a safe, secure neighborhood, police are helped by those neighbors. Officer Rash testified, neighbors help neighbors, and neighbors help the police. There are really only two questions for you to answer to reach your verdict in the charges that the state has brought against Greg McMichael. Did Greg McMichael have reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion to believe that Ahmaud Arbery had committed a burglary at 220 Satilla Drive? And did he have reasonable and probable grounds to believe that Ahmaud Arbery was escaping or attempting to escape yet again on February 23rd? It is a 9-count indictment. 9 counts. So why only 2 questions? Well, I want to suggest to you what the state suggested, but in reverse. I'd like to suggest a methodical, efficient way to think about all this law and all these charges. I suggest that you begin at the beginning. Count 1, malice murder. And then take all the rest of those counts, 2 through 9, as one big chunk as you consider these important questions. Even count 1, that malice murder count, is defended by the answers to those questions. But with malice murder, I suggest to you, you don't even have to get to those questions. Greg McMichael pulled no trigger. How could the state seek a conviction for malice murder as Greg stood in the bed of the pickup truck on the phone with 911 as the fatal shots were fired? As a party to the crime, Ms. Dunikoski told you about the law that the judge will give you. If someone intentionally helps or aids or procures or hires or assists in the commission of a crime, they can be as guilty as the principal, as the person who fired the shots. But what is so very different about count 1 is that it's malice murder. It requires the desire and the intent to kill, the deliberate intention to take the life of another human being, where all of the circumstances of the killing show that an individual acted with an abandoned and malignant heart. The state will have to be asking you to find that Greg McMichael advised or encouraged Travis McMichael, his son, to take the life of Ahmaud Arbery because that's what he wanted to do, for no reason other than to see that young man die, and to see him die at the hands of his own son. And to do it right there in front of his eyes, because the guy keeps breaking into that house down the street. That's the level of criminal intent, the level of depravity, heartlessness, sickness that you would need to find beyond a reasonable doubt to find Greg McMichael guilty of malice murder. That's why I suggest that you begin with count 1 and quickly dispatch of it with a not guilty verdict. And then move down to the remaining counts, counts 2 through 9, because it comes down to this. If Greg McMichael was authorized by law to attempt to execute a citizen's arrest, to try to detain Ahmaud Arbery for the police to come and do their job, to try to keep peace and safety within that neighborhood, then they were within the law to hold him there for the police. How else does one hold an individual who does not want to be arrested for the police? You have to contain him, not false imprison him, contain him. You have to possibly hold him at gunpoint without firing a shot, not an aggravated assault, but the use of a reasonable and measured amount of force to make him stay where he did not want to stay. So if they were acting within the law in trying to execute a citizen's arrest, to detain Ahmaud Arbery for the police, then Travis had every single right to defend himself. When Ahmaud Arbery inexplicably took that sharp left turn at the right front of the truck, seeking to disarm Travis McMichael. So, who's got to prove what? We begin, as we always begin in a courtroom, with innocence. And we stay there unless and until the state proves to you that this was not a citizen's arrest and that Travis was not justified in defending himself against Ahmaud Arbery's attack. And they have to convince you of that. Remove your belief in that citizen's arrest or justification to such a degree that you've got left nothing in your minds to doubt it. And that sounds like an enormous burden. Why? Because they have to make you sure of it. You have to have no hesitation, no ambivalence, absolute certainty, because the stakes